to Capital Talk. All this week, Kenyans who have made an impact, and we are starting it off on a high. My guest today, Professor Ali Mazrui, in the country for a few days, and we've got him right here on Capital Talk talking about everything from the Grand Coalition to the post-election violence to the impact in America. My guest today, Professor Ali Mazrui. So, Professor, this democracy that we've borrowed, if you will, from the West, is it working? Obviously, in some parts of Africa, it's not working. In Kenya, are we on our way? Are we doing the right thing?
Well, not in every respect, but there were major steps forward, which justified our expecting better than we received at the end of last year. The fact that we could vote out of power a party which had been in power since independence. I'm talking about 2002 and Kanu being voted out of office after virtually monopolizing the political scene since 1963. That was a major step forward. Yeah. It's true it didn't throw out Moi because he was stepping down anyhow at the end of his term, but it did throw out the ruling party. That was a major plus. And then with regard to even the elections of 2007, the elections of parliament started off remarkably. One powerful Kenyan after another lost their seat, including otherwise very attractive vice president of Kenya. So in general, as we watched this political carnage of the powerful, we thought, this is a country that is truly becoming free, because it has learned to say out with the rascals and to vote them out of office. So that was a plus. It's true things went wrong when we were dealing with the pinnacle of power. And so the question has arisen whether the next time round we will be capable of voting out of office even a president, because there are African countries that have done it already. So it isn't as if it hasn't happened since independence.
Right. But there are other countries, Professor, Zimbabwe, for instance. When will they ever realize, or when will they ever be able to vote their president out? Because the first round, Mugabe actually did lose, right?
Yes.
But opposition, Morgan Tsvangirai, didn't have enough for a majority, right? A clear majority.
Well, we assume so, but in fact we are not even sure of that.
Correct.
What went wrong in Zimbabwe?
Well, what went wrong is Robert Mugabe's insatiable appetite for power, which surprises me, because we were all major fans of Robert Mugabe as a liberation fighter. And in the earlier years of Mugabe in power, he appeared to be humane. I remember once just complaining to him, I said, why do you permit so much racism by whites after independence, which I had encountered in restaurants, and the way white folks treated waiters and whatnot. And at that time he said there are two ways of reforming people, One is set them a good example. The other, transmit a good message to them. And only in the last resort, impose sanctions to change their behavior. And then much later, when I was talking to him after he has been handling white farmers with such arbitrariness, he said, you are assuming, Professor, that I initiated this action against white farmers. No, the initiative was taken by the veterans of the Liberation War, and I was faced with a choice. Should I send the Zimbabwe police, and they would have been humiliated, or should I send the Zimbabwe army? He said they might even have mutinied and refused to act against the veterans. And if they had acted, there was a serious danger of real bloodshed on a large scale. And I had to decide, since I agreed with the idea of land reform, whether to support them, even if their methods of doing it were unorthodox. So here was Zimbabwe still debating at least, but in general changing from the one who resisted my impatience with whites, saying, why do you permit such racism in an independent Zimbabwe, to actions not only against white farmers, but against his own black opposition within Zimbabwe. So we've been let down because we were great admirers of the man, and we were really puzzled as to why he behaves in this way in his evening of life, you see.
At the same time, since we're in Southern Africa, let's travel further south, South Africa. Thabo Mbeki has also turned out to be quite a disappointment in some areas.
Well, certainly with regard to how he handled Mugabe, he has been a disappointment. I could understand his caution not to use South Africa's power on South Africa's neighbors the way the apartheid regime used to bully South Africa's neighbors. So at the very beginning I was sympathetic that he didn't want to use muscle power against Robert Mugabe. But as things got worse and worse, we really wondered whether he has the stamina to deal with some of the responsibilities of the region. Ironically, he's really very Pan-Africanist, and that, in the case of Zimbabwe, was a failure on his part. But in the wider idea, he was more of a Pan-Africanist than the person he succeeded. Yeah, because Nelson Mandela was a great man and a great globalist, but he was not a great Pan-Africanist. He didn't delve into interacting with African countries on the scale that Thabo Mbeki was prepared to do. But on the specific issue of his immediate neighbor, his Pan-Africanism was too soft, too permissive, and therefore betrayed the people of Zimbabwe, even if it did not betray the government of Zimbabwe.
Professor, half a century after countries like Ghana, first sub-Saharan country to gain independence, half a century later, are there successes out there? And would Kwame Nkrumah today be a happy man with what he envisioned?
Well, I'm sometimes a controversial figure in Ghana, although they have continuing appetite to have me back so I could say things with which they disagree.
Yes.
Because my position has always been that Kwame Nkrumah was a great African but not a great Ghanaian. Yeah? That Africa mattered him more than his immediate duties as head of state of Ghana. And that many of the things he did in Ghana were detrimental to Ghanaian democracy, to the Ghanaian economy. He wasn't quite Robert Mugabe, but he was in danger of illustrating similar tendencies. So I have said that since 1966, when he was overthrown, and Ghanaians continue to debate me on that. Even this last year of the 50th anniversary, I was invited twice to Ghana by different people, and sometimes they get very annoyed, the Nkrumahs. But Ghana is a divided country on Nkrumah, because there are many who are not sure he was as fair to them as he should have been as head of state. But would he have been disappointed with the Africa of today? Yeah, with regard to African unity, which was his love. That's why he was a great African, even if he wasn't a great Ghanaian. He would have been disappointed by the lack of progress since 1963, when we formed the Organization of African Unity. And in general, he thought by now we should have moved decisively towards federating the African continent. I don't think he would have been disappointed with regard to performance in the economy, because he thought at that time we were in bad shape anyhow, and were controlled much more by the West. And we have reduced the Western control to some extent, although it's still strong. And there are aspects of economic performance Nkrumah would have approved of. I have said to Ghanaians that Nkrumah started off as a Democrat and ended as a dictator, and Jerry Rawlings started as a dictator and ended as a Democrat.
Very true.
Both propositions were hotly debated in Ghana.
Professor, let's jump across the ocean now. Did you ever think that a man of African descent, a man of Kenyan descent, would be literally a heartbeat away from the presidency of the most powerful nation on the planet?
No, I never expected it to happen so soon. Yeah, I did hope, and I've written many a time about the prospect of a black president of the United States. But first, I expected a black president descended from what is called the Middle Passage, that an African American descended from the history of the slave trade. I didn't expect someone descended from the consequences of colonialism rather than the consequences of the slave trade. For the dispersal of Barack Obama's father going to Hawaii for his education in 1959 and looking for support at that time was part of the aftermath of colonialism. But it is happening. You are probably aware I raised the issue in October or November, which country will have its first Luo president, first of all.
Yes.
Kenya or the United States.
Correct.
Yeah. And it turned out to be neither for the time being, although the Prime Minister said publicly when I was there at his lunch last month,
yeah,
he quoted my statement, which will have, if it's Luo president first, Kenya or the United States. He claimed Kenya has had its first Luo president, but he has not been sworn in. So it was a joke which was highly appreciated by the audience at that time.
yeah.
So we are waiting anxiously. Of course, most of us are on Obama's side. We want him to win, partly because for ancestral reasons and relationship with the destiny of black people in the United States. But also because I personally believe it could be a major stage towards a post-racial America, an America where a race as a qualification for major positions in government would go down and down.
I think, Professor, it was Thabo Mbeki who said the 21st century is Africa's century. Is this a good time to be African?
Well, it is a good time, but I'm not sure it's our best century. Yeah, it is a good time in the sense that there are opportunities to be exploited, and if Thabo Mbeki does become president, the son of an African, and for our own country, the son of a Kenyan, to become president of the United States, that would be a major development. But I wouldn't like to describe it as Africa's century as if it meant this is the best we can do.
Yeah.
I think our century is coming, but this is part of the preparation for it.
How long are you going to be continuing to teach and to write books, Professor?
Well, fortunately, unlike most African countries, Americans don't force aging professors to retire for as long as they can grade exam papers. So they permit me to continue at their institutions, and I'm very glad to handle young Americans in the hope that the influence of an African teacher is part of the creation of a mutually understanding world.
Well, Professor, you've influenced generations
Thank you very
Great
much.
honor to talk to you.
Thank you for this
Thank you, sir.
opportunity.
Well done.
Appreciate it.
My guest today, Professor Ali Mazrui, the man himself who's written more than 30 books. The first one, more than 40 years ago, that called Towards a Pax Africana. You probably remember him best with his series, Africa, a Triple Heritage. Oh, what a story. What a fascinating week of Kenyans who have made an impact. And we've started with the preeminent academician, not just in Kenya, but across the continent. Right here on Capital Talk, that's where you get the best of the best. And it's only on K24, where we are all Kenyan, all the time.